Heading into week 6 of the fantasy football season, here's a few wide receivers I looked at on the waiver wire. The first guy is Kadarius Toney of the New York Giants. So the Giants, they got tons of injuries at the wide receiver position. Kenny Golladay as well left this ball game with a tight hamstring once again. And knowing Golladay, he'll probably be out a few weeks. We saw Barkley go down, Daniel Jones go down. So Toney was one of the last man standing who can make plays on this Giant offense. And he had a huge game in week 5 at the Cowboys. 10 catches, 189 yards on 13 targets, and 1 carry for 7 yards. The only thing, he got ejected in this one, and who knows if him throwing that punch is going to cost him a game in next week's ball game versus the Rams. But right now, after a huge performance like this, and a guy the Giants took early in the NFL draft in the past offseason, this is a guy that's got to be owned in a lot of fantasy leagues, in my opinion. And in my opinion, I think he's a better playmaker than Sterling Shepard. And he's up there with Darius Slayton as well, so he's got to see the field. The Giants are 1-4. They're probably going nowhere this season, especially now with Barkley banged up. And who knows how long he's out. And Daniel Jones, who got a bad concussion in that ball game versus Dallas. So right here, Toney's definitely a big pickup this week, even if he's suspended a game or not. The next wide receiver I will look to add on the waiver wire this week, Ross St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. So St. Brown, the last couple games here, he's really put in work. Week 4 at the Bears, 6 catches, 70 yards on 8 targets. Week 5 at the Minnesota Vikings, another good game, 7 catches, 65 yards on 8 targets. So week 6, he's got a good matchup versus the Cincinnati Bengals, who just got torched for 206 yards by Davante Adams. And I know St. Brown ain't no Davante Adams, but I'm just saying, this team, they're vulnerable against the pass in the air, and we've seen it over the last couple weeks here with this Bengal team. So St. Brown, he might be the number 1 option over there in Detroit. In Detroit, we know they're 0-5. We know they're going to be trailing in a lot of ball games. And St. Brown, I think he's a decent flex option, especially with buys coming up now, starting next week. And he's available in almost universally around the leagues in 97% of fantasy leagues. So right here, it looks like he's the number 1 man over there in Detroit, and I would give him a look and an ad this week if you need receiver help. The third wide receiver I look to get on the wire this week, so Marquez Callaway of the New Orleans Saints. So I mentioned Callaway a couple weeks ago as an ad, but he had a big ball game in week 5 versus the Washington football team. 4 catches, 85 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns, including a Hail Mary before halftime, which was a great play pulled off by New Orleans. But I know New Orleans is on bye in week 6, but if you got room to stash Callaway on your roster, it's not a bad ad. He's the number 1 guy over there until Michael Thomas comes back. Him and Jameis Winston over the last 3 weeks have gotten a good rapport going. Week 3 for him, 4 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown at the Patriots. And then I know week 4 versus the Giants, he only had 2 catches for 74 yards, but him and Winston, they're hooking up on deep balls, and right now they're looking comfortable together, and Callaway's available in 70% of fantasy leagues. The next wide receiver I look to get on the wire, Chris Moore, the Houston Texans. So Chris Moore came out of nowhere in this ball game for the Texans versus the New England Patriots, finishing in week 5, 5 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown. So right now, he's going to be on the field, it looks like. And Danny Amendola, he wasn't active in this game. So Chris Moore had a big ball game, including a crazy catch in between 2 defenders, jumping and getting it, and then taking it to the house. And in week 6, he got a pretty decent matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. And obviously, Davis Mills and this Houston Texan team, they're going to be trailing in a lot of games, and they're going to air it out. And Chris Moore, it looks like to me, he's definitely got a role with this Houston Texan team. I know he didn't play or wasn't active the first 4 weeks of the season, but had a huge role in this one and shown he could be a playmaker for this Texan team. So right now, he's available in pretty much every fantasy league. In 99% of leagues is Chris Moore, and he's got a pretty decent matchup week 6 in Indy. And obviously, we know this Texan team don't have really many playmakers, and I think Chris Moore could be one for this Texan team. So right here, give him an ad. In the 5th and final receiver I looked at on the wire this week's Tim Patrick of the Denver Broncos. So Tim Patrick, I don't know how he's still out there. Is Tim Patrick in a crazy amount of fantasy leagues at 69%. He's only had 1 bad game this season, in my opinion. in PPR leagues. And in week 5 at Pittsburgh, a good ball game, 7 catches, 89 yards on 9 targets. And right here, he's had double-digit fantasy points 4 out of the first 5 games of the season is Patrick. And we know Jerry Jeudy, there's no timetable really for his return anytime soon, in my opinion. So right here, if Tim Patrick's out there in your league, you definitely got to run out there and get him. He's the number 2 receiver over there in Denver. He's a good complementary wide receiver, in my opinion, to Courtland Sutton. And him and Teddy Bridgewater have a good rapport, obviously, with the numbers Patrick has been putting up this season so far. So right now, if he's out there in your league, you definitely add him on the wire. And that's a few wide receivers I'd look to add on the waiver wire heading into week 6 of the fantasy football season.